let's try this one more time. I already shot this video once in its entirety and went to upload it to YouTube, and every time I did, the audio would be out of sync with the video, and it turns out that YouTube cannot handle video that's uploaded in 4K format. So I get to start over from scratch. What fun. At any rate, it's time for a new 3D G-Tower assembly and usage guide, because the one that I uploaded 2 years ago, something like that, could have been more than that. A lot of things have changed, and new discoveries have been made along the way. That's just the way things work over time. So it's time for an update. And the main thing is the development of the new 3x6 segment, which is 3 inches across, 6 inches up and down, 2 planter pockets on the same segment separated by 3 inches this way, 3 inches this way. So you get 6 inches of plant spacing in one segment. And another thing is that this came from other users of the towers that are using them in farmers market situations where they're having to transport the towers in and out of their car. And it's, even though it's nice to be able to rotate things like this, it's not really helpful if you're transporting the towers, because things will go all wonky on you in transport. So they've been gluing them together using this, which is Loctite PL polyurethane adhesive. And once you get your towers all glued together, or your segments all glued together, you have a super rigid tower. I mean, you can carry it horizontally, lay it down in the backseat of your car, whatever you want, and it's just a whole lot easier to deal with. And another thing, when it comes to this rotating bit here, if you're growing quick turnaround plants, they aren't going to live in your towers long enough to create a shadow on anything below them. For example, lettuce is usually in and out of the tower in 6 or 7 weeks. There's no real reason to leave the tower segments rotatable and adjustable. Oh, before I move any further, that intro clip at the beginning with the Jeopardy music, yes, I put that there for a very specific reason. That is there because I get a lot of people coming to the website and thinking that 3D printing is a quick process, like they're going to be able to print an entire tower in one day. And that's just not going to happen. Perhaps you could if you had 4 printers running at the same time. Yeah, but who wants to spend, gosh, $1,500 to $2,000 for 4 printers just to be able to print these towers that quickly? The way I do things, I start my printer every 12 hours. And in one day I can get 2 segments. So if you're printing this segment here, medium resolution and not randomizing your start points, meaning every time your printer goes to print a new layer, it always starts at the same place. I don't do that because it leaves a line down one side of the tower segment. I mean, it's not a deal breaker or anything. I just don't like the look of it. But if you don't randomize your start points, this one will take somewhere less than 10 hours to print. Whereas in my case, I randomize my start points so I don't have that line, and it takes 11 hours and 6 minutes. It's not an unreasonable amount of time, but I mean, that's just the way 3D printing is. So if I start my printer every 12 hours, I can get 2 segments one day, 2 the next, the next, the next. So 4 days, I get all 8 segments, 16 planter pockets, and then the next day I can print my cap and base. So the base takes 3 hours to print, and both parts of the cap take a total of 3 hours as well. So 4 days and 6 hours to print an entire tower. That's not bad. If you were to order somebody else's tower online and have it shipped to you, you're not going to get it in 4.5 days, less than that, unless you pay for overnight shipping or second day air, something like that, and then the price of your tower just goes right through the roof. One of these towers, I can get an entire tower out of one roll of PLA filament. The roll of filament is anywhere from $18 to $20 when I factor in electricity. Now, granted, I'm in Nebraska, western Nebraska, where electricity is dirt cheap. It's 11 cents per kilowatt hour. So I can print the entire tower for less than $22, $22, $23, somewhere in there. It's dirt cheap. So, and another nice thing about that is, with these being so cheap, if you damage one, you're not out a whole bunch of money. It doesn't, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg to replace it. So this is a much better way to go. And speaking of other people's towers, I get a lot of messages on the website as well from people referring to this as my ZipGrow tower knockoff. Now, I hate to bust your bubble, but Nate Story did not invent vertical gardening. Vertical gardening has existed much longer than that ZipGrow tower has been around. And if you compare one of these to a ZipGrow tower is nothing more than a 4-inch vinyl fence post sleeve that has a slot cut up one side. So you can only plant along one plane. And then it also requires polyflow pond filter media to hold your plants in there. Now, he may call it matrix media and make it sound like it's something that he invented. No, he did not. It's polyflow brand pond filter media inside of a vinyl fence post sleeve. For that thing being patented, I have to laugh because it's all off-the-shelf stuff. The only thing he got a patent on is the method for making that tower. That's all the patent is. But when you look at a seed packet, there's always a recommended plant spacing between seeds. And we'll use an example like what I use these towers for. I grow primarily mini romaine head lettuce in here. Now those have to be separated by 6 inches. So on a ZipGrow tower, you can plant one seed here, go up 6 inches, another one, 6 inches, another one. Whereas in one of these, here's one plant, come over 3 inches, up 3 inches, there's another one. You can get twice as many plants per foot in one of these than you can in a ZipGrow tower. So, no, this is not a ZipGrow tower knockoff. I wouldn't even want to try to knock that off because, frankly, it's not a good design. It has numerous flaws, and it's awfully strange how every time a flaw was pointed out in that design, Nate Story turned it into some kind of a marketing point. He spun things around and made it a marketing point. There's a word for people that do that. It's a phrase actually, snake oil salesman. I'm serious. So no, this is not a ZipGrow tower. It's actually better than a ZipGrow tower. We're going to move on with this video and we'll get to assembling these, gluing them together and running the strings through, and then we'll take one out to the greenhouse, install it out there, connect the water to it, and plant it. So you'll see the entire process from beginning to end, short of the actual printing. I don't want to put a video together of 4 days of a 3D printer printing all the parts. That would be dry and boring. So we'll move along here and we'll be back in just a few seconds, all right? Okay, let's see if I can do this without my bald head causing the white balance on the camera to freak out and flip-flop like a fish out of water again. Hopefully the dogs won't be running in and out of their door and making that banging noise again. Anywho, I'm going to show you how I put these things together, and I will see if I can get this a little closer to the camera so you can see what it is. Loctite PL. Like I said, polyurethane. And I know some people might think it's just a matter of, oh, well, glue them together and stack them up. No, you want to keep them aligned. So when you glue them together, you lay them down on your workbench or your table, and you give them a twist so that both of these planter pockets are touching the table at the same time. That way, when you stand things up and you let them set up, and you stack the rest of your sections, your tower will be perfectly aligned. So these will be, dog did it anyway, these will be 90 degrees apart all the way up, both sides. And you don't want to use a whole lot of this adhesive because, well, polyurethane adhesive expands. And if you're familiar with Gorilla Glue, you know that is also a polyurethane adhesive. Now, you don't have to do it like this if you don't want to. I don't wear gloves because, frankly, those things are just a pain in my butt. But you only put a very thin film on here and you spread it out with your finger. I have paper towels, so I'm not concerned about having a glove. I'll try to stay in the camera's view. You just put a very thin film on around the slip fitting and get it as even as possible all the way around. That looks good. You can see no need for a rubber glove for me. Like I said, I hate those things. Put the segments together like that, and I like to give them a couple twists back and forth to get that glue spread out in the slip fitting in the joint there. So there, I put that down. I have it on a paper towel because that could ooze out and get on. I don't want it on the table. So there, I push that one down. Both of those segments are touching the table at the same time. And you just do that for all 4 stacks, and you got to let them set up for about 30 minutes. That should give them enough time for the glue to, set up enough so that they are able to twist anymore. And then stack 2 of them together, 2 stacks of 2 glued together. Let that set up, and then do the last one. Really not hard, but it's just make sure you don't use a whole lot of glue, and do that thing where you lay them down and get them both right even. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be wondering, why don't I use silicone? And honestly, I have used silicone before, but the problem is, after time, silicone just for some reason seems to come loose. I don't know why. This polyurethane adhesive does not come loose, and I can't see any problems with it at all. If there's any of you food safe plastic fanatics out there, none of that glue comes out anywhere close to where the roots are. And as I said in a previous video on my other channel, storing food in something plastic and growing food in something plastic are 2 totally different things, and you're not cooking in these things. So yes, everything's 100% food safe, especially considering the fact that PLA 3D printing filament is made out of corn. So the towers are actually made out of food themselves. Anywho, I'm going to glue these other ones together and let them set up, and I'm not going to record that because that would be awful boring as well. So we'll move on, and I'll be back in just a few seconds. Well, let's try this again. I recorded putting these things together and downloaded the video to my laptop and found out that I forgot to turn on the microphone on the camera. So that video is shot. You know, you would think that for a condenser microphone, meaning one that takes power, it would have better sound quality than this. But that's what you get. I'll bring this closer so you can see things. The base is on here, and you can see that one of these holes right there, that's where your strings go, goes straight up the middle between the planter pockets. And the other one for your strings is on the other side. And I keep calling it strings. It's actually parachute cord. Because if you were to use just cotton twine or anything like that, they would rot out from the pH. And whether it's aquaponics or hydroponics, the pH of the water would rot the string. So that's why I use parachute cord. But, so we'll get that out of the way temporarily. So we'll do the last step now that I have confirmed that the microphone is actually turned on. Good grief. And I couldn't redo it because I don't have any spare tower parts printed up right now to start over with. So I guess we'll just pretend we saw how that worked. I think everybody can probably figure it out anyway without seeing that video. But at least we'll do the last two parts of it. There we go. And, oh, congratulations, another dog just decided to make that noise again. I don't know why they always manage to do this when I'm trying to record something. There we go. So we'll get these put together and let them set up. And depending on how things go, I may be able to record the rest of it, putting it together, but it's going to take me a couple weeks, well, not a couple weeks, but at least a week before I can take it out to the greenhouse and plant it, because my starter plants barely peeked up over the top of their rock wool plugs. So there you go, that's a completely assembled tower. The only thing that'll be left after this, so is the cap. This is the Aquaponics Cap. It has 1/4-inch holes all the way around it on the inside. The hydroponics one has 1/8-inch holes. The reason for this is because in aquaponics you have a lot of waste in your well, fish waste in your water, and it'll plug these up if you're using the hydroponic one. So this one's got the larger holes in it. So that's that. We'll let it sit up, and we'll be back in a bit to put the strings through the cap, tie the knot in the top, and prepare it for installation. So be back in just a few seconds. Hey, it's New Year's Day, and the tower is set up. See, nice and rigid. Look, you can see through it, maybe. Hey, we'll get this a little closer. As you can see, like right there, and in some places up here, that glue does happen to swell up just like a Gorilla Glue does, because it's polyurethane, and that's just the thing with polyurethane adhesives. It's even worse yet if I were to have tried to put this in the greenhouse before that glue is completely set up. Polyurethane adhesive really expands when water gets to it. So that's why you really want to make sure that the glue is completely dried, set up before you install one of these. But as you can see, I mean, that thing is perfectly aligned from one end to the other. Hard to do this. There. See, perfectly aligned all the way from top to bottom. And with these being 90 degrees apart, there's 6 inches from that one to that one. There's also 6 inches from that one to that one. So really good plant spacing all the way around. This is going to be a good tower. Let me set this down really quick. Alright, the next part are the strings, which, as I clarified, it's parachute cord. There's 2 of them. If you've ever worked with parachute cord or any kind of nylon rope before, you know that after you cut it, you have to heat it up with a torch or a lighter, a flame or something. And that is to prevent the ends from fraying out. So you have to do that on both ends. After you cut these, you have to heat them up with a lighter or a torch, whatever you got, and melt them so that they won't fray out any further. Now these are recycled ones from another tower that is not in service right now. We're sorry, this number has been disconnected and is no longer in service. Oh, wrong commercial. Anywho, so you tie a knot right near the ends of them, best you can. Now, we'll get this back. And before you do this, you want to make sure that your parachute cord, your strings, are moistened. They're a lot easier to work with when they got some water in them because, well, like I'm feeding this one in the back here, pulling it through until the knot meets up. I'll do that on the other side, but the reason you want them moistened is because when you go to turn the strings back around and feed them down into the tower, if they're moistened, they will lay flat along the back and not try coming out of the planter pockets. So we do this. There's another dog going out the door. How did I know that was going to happen? But we start feeding them down the back side of the tower. There, all the way through. Just that easy. Make sure they're straightened out. So those strings are all the way through the tower. Now comes the part with the cap. Set that down. So for example, with the hydroponics or aquaponics cap, all of the holes are 1/4 inch in diameter. So you just pick 2 that are, right across from each other. In the hydroponics cap, there's 2 1/4 inch holes and the rest of them are all 1/8 inch holes. So it's pretty easy to figure out where the strings go. So we just feed them through 2 holes that are maybe, there, straight across from each other. This is the lower portion of the cap that I put on first. So we put it on, make sure that string is lined up right with the planter pockets. Get the upper part of the cap. One side of this cap has got a bevel on it. That bevel goes downward into the other part of the cap. Put the strings through there. Get it all the way down in there. Now, another thing, when the strings are wet, it makes it easier to pull all the slack out of them. And after this, you just tie a simple knot in the top. There's no need for any extra hardware or anything. Just tie a knot. And in my case, I only have out in my tower rack where the hook comes down that the towers hang on, there's only about 2.5 to 3 inches between the bottom part of that hook and where this tower needs to be. Pull that tight so that my bottom part of the tower lands in the gutter where it needs to be. So it's not sitting all the way down in the gutter, but not sitting up so high that it splashes water all over the place. But that's it. However you decide to hang them, you could build a rack like what I did in the videos on my other channel, or come up with your own method. That cat kind of rattles around a little, makes a lot of noise. I'm sure the microphone is going to pick that up real well. But that's all there is to it. And like I said, I've started selling trial towers on the website again. I'm not running a 3D printing farm, so I'm not printing batches of towers for people, but if somebody wants to buy a pre-printed tower to test with first before they decide to take the plunge into 3D printing, they can do that as well. So that's all there is to it. After my plants come back up a little higher, maybe sometime this week. This is New Year's Day, so maybe Wednesday, Thursday, I don't know. Might be able to get out there, get this thing out there installed and planted. But that's all there is to it. I think I'm going to cut this off here and go put the drone up in the air again and take some more aerial shots of what it looks like after we have a snowstorm, mild snowstorm in Nebraska. So, that's all there is. I will be back with the last part of this video when we're ready to plant this thing, install it and plant it. So, take it easy. Okay, we're back, and no, I have not gone Hollywood. Yes, I may be blind in one eye, but that eye, for some reason, is still sensitive to light. Not like I can see it, but I can feel it. So, that's the reason for the sunglasses. At any rate, here is the finished tower that we discussed in the last video segment. I'm going to put it in the rack here. Now, I realize the camera's in a fixed position. Yeah, you should be able to see that. There's the hook. And the tower just hangs on that hook. And down at the bottom here, I'll try to get some shots near the end of this video where it sits down in the gutter. Now, a person does not have to build a rack like this. There are umpteen different ways that a person can hang the towers. I just built this rack, I don't know, 4 years ago, something like that, because I wanted to have a way to have 16 towers in one condensed location and provide water to them, and adequate drainage. So all of the water lines are, I guess I gotta take that out. Little plastic plug. See, this is another good reason for 3D printers. You can print things that you can't buy. Nobody makes these little plugs for 1/4-inch ID tubes. So I made my own. So anyway, that water line goes to the top of the tower, or the cap. Because as you saw in the previous segment, these caps are like, like a shower cap, a sprinkler in a sense. I'm going to turn this so that my planter pockets are as close to being front and center as possible. There. I'm going to go back around here and turn on the water to this. I have little ball valves down here. Yep. I have to be careful because I have a really high-powered pump in my sump tank down here, and all I got to do is crack that thing open just a little bit. If you go too far, man, water will start coming out the top all over the place, but that looks good. And as you can see, I have other towers out here that have lettuce growing in them. These are almost ready. I should probably eat this one today. It's, This is January, first week of January, so it's cold out here. Although it never gets down to freezing at night, I control the temperature in here really well. It will still get down to about 40 degrees, and you'll get little almost frostbite marks on the very edge of the leaves. But as long as the plants don't freeze, as long as it doesn't get down to 32 degrees and stay at that temperature for an extended period of time, plants will survive just perfectly fine. You don't have to keep things San Diego warm all the time in the greenhouse. So that looks good. Let me grab my starter plants here. See if I can get these visible. All right. I just used 1 1/4 inch rock wool plugs. You can use anything else. You can use Jiffy Pete, starter plugs. Oh gosh, there's umpteen things. There's coconut coir. I've seen other ones that are made out of walnut shells. It doesn't matter. As long as they're 1 1/4 inch, they'll fit in these these planter pockets just fine. When you're planting these, you always want to start, you'll see how some of these are larger than the others. You want your larger ones on the bottom, just so they don't grow like, because you can see that they will create shadows. They'll get big enough that they will create some shadows on lower plants. So you want your smallest ones at the top, and there's a runt right there because I had to restart that plant. So I'm putting that in the very top pocket. And these, it's so easy. Just give it a slight little push until you get down to the edge of the rock wool plug. That's it. There's another small one. As you can see, roots coming out of it. There's going to be quite a few of them like that. You just want the roots all the way in there. You don't want to get it folded up underneath the starter plug. There's another small one and a decent root hanging off of it. They all look about the same after that. So, more roots. Goodness sakes, more. And I may disappear off camera getting these last ones in down at the bottom. Hopelessly lost, but making good time, right? Getting there. 3 left. Okay, last one. All right, so without any editing, video editing whatsoever, that's how fast you can install the tower, connect the water to it, and plant all 16 planter pockets. There, we should be good. So I think that about wraps up everything for this video. It's probably, I know it's going to be over half hour. Whoops. But, and I know some people are going to say that, oh God, Larry, that looks crooked. Well, I started building this when both my eyes were functional, lost my vision in this eye, and I finished it up half blind. So that's why there's imperfections in it. But it really doesn't matter if this one leans a little far that way. The tower still hangs perfectly straight up and down. Water drains just fine. Things don't have to be perfect. I know I have one friend out there who ridicules every damn thing around here. I don't know why. You would think that if a person has such high standards, they would be able to do better than you. But no, all they have to offer is complaints. I don't care. It works. No, it's not perfect, but it works just fine. I'm really surprised that a train has not come by and ruined this video. That happens all the time. And I'm surprised that the wind isn't rattling the hell out of the cover of the greenhouse. Pure luck. At any rate, I'm going to wrap this up and move on. Maybe I'll do a video, so people don't have to go back to my old channel, covering this, explain how I built it, so you can take notes from that and build your own solution. But that's it. We'll catch you around next time. I got things I got to do today. So take it easy. See you around.